So recently, in the style of music that I enjoy playing and listening to as well, there's quite a lot of influence of old Delta blues. But I think through the music I've listened to over the years, it's a Delta blues that's then coloured by Jimi Hendrix, Stevie Ray Vaughan, and people like that. You know, it's electric blues with that Delta influence. Recently, I've started listening though to more acoustic, original Delta, Mississippi Delta players. The Sun Houses of the world, Lightning Hopkins and John Lee Hooker and all of these people that started this style. I've had quite a few people asking me if I could do a lesson on the basics or the basic licks of this style. So what I've done today, rather than just put together a 12 or 16 bar blues in the style, I've put 5 licks that I enjoy together as one, just for the lesson. It may not be so realistic because you would have to play the sort of rhythmical elements and the structure of the piece of music, but in terms of the licks that you can employ in that's what I've done today. So just coming up as a slow example of how I would play something like this if I was just concentrating on the real traits of it. There's a lot more that I could do with this, so if you are interested, I can do a part 2 with 5 more licks, or maybe we can look at a particular piece of music, an original Delta blues, and break it down. There'll probably be less lead playing in one individual piece than these 5 licks, if that makes sense. But that would be interesting as well. So let me know in the comments. But here we go. Here's the lesson. Here's the piece. And then there's the lesson broken down into 5 licks. All sort of probably intermediate level, I would say. But I think I've broken it down slow enough that you can start to get an idea if you're a beginner of what you're doing. Anyway, enjoy that. And at the end, I'll let you know what gear I was using in today's video. All right, lick number 1. So we're up here in the first position of the pentatonic if you're starting on the 5th string. And we're going to take the 7th fret of the E string and the 8th fret of the B string, and we're going to only bend up the one that's on the B string. So you can hear it makes that lovely double stop sound, that very bluesy. And then we come down 5th fret of the B string, open E string. 3rd fret of the B string with open E string. And then slide from the 4th fret of the G string down to the 2nd fret. Then the open G. And then the 2nd fret of the D string, which is the E. So. We can finish that if we want to by bending the 3rd fret of the E string, the low E string. So that's a G, but bend it slightly. Then tap on and off from the D, open D to the 2nd fret of the D. So quite often I'd like to start at this sort of Delta blues like that. So that's lick number 1. Lick number 2, we're going to be using part of the E7 shape, which would be here. So that's the tonic, the 2nd fret of the D string, the 4th fret of the G, the 3rd fret of the B, and the 4th fret of the E string. You can see it's the same shape as the open D7 chord, up 2 fret. But we really only use 2 notes from it most of the time, and that's the 4th fret of the G and the 3rd fret of the B. And you can see that's also part of the 2nd position of the E pentatonic. So we're going to slide up to it in triplet note. So again, we slide from the 4th fret of the G to the 2nd fret, and then the open G, and then the 2nd fret of the E. If we want to make that a bit more sort of whole sounding, we can use the low open E but muted. Again, we can finish it the same way, bend that third fret of the low E, and then tap on and off with the open D to the second fret of the D. Now, as you sort of progress with this and you start to use your right hand a bit differently, you get this softer sound. So you want to use the middle finger, and it's going to gently rake. So there's various ways of doing that in the same lick. So we started by just pulling at those two strings. As you progress, you can do the open E at the bottom and use these two fingers, third and fourth. And then as you progress more, you can use just the middle finger. There's this sort of call and response pattern that I've heard people do where you might do the normal lick that we're doing. And then you do this other one where you slide up the two notes on the G and the B string. And then you rake the open E, the B string and the G string as fretted. So you can add that in as well. So there's sort of levels that you can go to here. So just to recap the first two phrases again. So that can be done with the pick, or and then we've got this one. Or we can use it. And then we can add this in with the rake. So yeah, really enjoy those two. Okay, number 3. I can use the pick for this one again. So this is quite a common Jimi Hendrix sort of a thing, but it comes from Muddy Waters really. There's any number of ways to give it attitude. But the basic lick is to bend up the second fret of the G string and pull off, so you only hit it once. And by using that little part of the lick, you can then add other things to it. You can see how we can marry together the second lick and the third lick. Such a common refrain. So yeah, I use this quite often. So lick number 4. So a little bit more complicated. This is the pentatonic shape. So we're going to bend up the third fret of the E string. Then hit the open B and tap onto the third fret of the B. And then hit the open E. Then we hit the third fret of the B string. And then we slide up the second fret of the G to the fourth fret. Third fret of the B. Slide back from the fourth to the second of the G string. open G, and then 2nd fret of the D. And we can add that on as a sort of afterthought. So pull off from the 2nd fret of the D to the open D, pull off from the 2nd fret of the A to the open A, to the open A, pull off the 3rd fret of the bottom E to the open E, and then hammer on for the open D to the 2nd fret of the D. It's like an afterthought sort of phrase, you know, you do your big. It's a nice way to sort of bring it all back together again. Okay, and then the last one for this particular lesson, and I can do more if you find this interesting, is so it's like a turnaround sort of thing. So we're going to come down using this E7 to start with. So 4th fret of the G, 3rd fret of the B, and the open. Bring that down 1, 3rd fret, 2nd fret, open. Down again, 2nd fret, 1st fret, open. And then 1st fret of the G and the 2 open B and E note. Okay, and then open A, 1st fret of the A, and then to the B, the 2nd fret of the A string. And then you've fretted the B7 chord. So that B7 chord is 2nd fret of the A string, 1st fret of the D string, 2nd fret of the G string, 2nd fret of the B string. So I had someone comment the other day that if you're playing such a simple style of music, then there's absolutely no need to have expensive and good equipment. And I didn't agree with that at all. I think you have whatever equipment you want to have, and you make music with it. It's not a competition. I think a lot of us are probably bored of people commenting things like that. It's not, oh, you don't need it. It's too good for that. It's too good for you. Whatever it is, it's just not true. In fact, when you watch videos of these guys, for the time they were probably playing absolutely cutting edge instruments by the time they were being recorded. The recordings might sound primitive because of the microphones, because of the recording techniques, but you know, Son House was playing a beautiful resonator. John Lee Hooker was, you know, by the time he was playing electric guitar, he was playing beautiful electric guitars. We know B.B. King. You know, these guys weren't just trying to use the cheapest guitar because they didn't need it. They started on the cheapest because they had no money, and as they got better and as they got more well known, they used expensive stuff. For me, the more simple the sound, actually, the better the equipment needs to be. It's just my opinion, but in today's video, it might be there to justify today's equipment. This is a Fender Masterbuilt Paul Waller hardtail Strat, which I think is quite cool for this style. A Telecaster would probably be better. That same directness, but a bit more open sound. And I'm using the Bartel Roseland, which is in this case being used in its tweed setting. So just a nice big open warm sound. I've got the tremolo going and the reverb, and then I put this blues power pedal on just for a bit of extra crunch and breakup. I wouldn't say this would be the exact kit that I would use to play this. I'd probably use a small combo like my Lazy J10. Somehow that combo, when it's cranked a bit more, then I don't need a pedal. You get a more organic sound to it. And I'd probably use a humbucker rolled back a fair bit, and you get a lovely warm tone. And when you're doing those middle finger sort of rakes, you get perfect edge of breakup, but still with the open notes. Anyway, you can do it on any guitar that you want to. I think that's key, though. I don't think anyone needs to tell you what to do in that sense. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this video. There's been a lot of me doing tutorials over the last week or two, so the next couple of videos will be more gear related. I've got a couple of amp comparisons to do. I think the Bartel Roseland is actually going this week in exchange for 2 other amps that I'm really excited about. So I'll try and use the Bartel Roseland for the next couple of videos that I film before then, just so we can get more of it on the channel before it goes. I'll explain why it's gone when I show you what's come in its place. Yeah, cool. Cheers.